Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Welcome everyone to our radio show where we encourage everyone to drop everything and read. I am your host, Denise Bryson, and I am excited to be interviewing our guests tonight, Brent Parrott and Bryan Renfro. I hope I'm saying that correctly. The authors of the Raleigh Thanksgiving Invitational Story. How are you guys tonight?
We're great, Denise. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to, I am too. I'm looking forward to you. I was reading through the story and it was so exciting to know that, because this is a season where traditions are built, right? This is a season where people are making family traditions or traditions, all kinds of traditions. And so it's just nice to see you all and this tradition that you all started some 60 years ago, because it's been, I think 2009 is where you stopped at 50 years. And so then of course we are 10 years out from that. And so it's just exciting just to be able to hear all about what you're going to tell us today, and all the team members and how you all came about with with writing the book and everything. So I'm excited to hear about that. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a local guy. Went to high school and college locally. I was drafted. This was back when they had a draft during Vietnam. And I was got a lot of writing as a staff writer, a journalist, sports writer, and editor of a base newspaper in Fort Meade, Maryland. I have two children, and one of them died a couple of years ago, and my daughter lives in Nashville. I have two granddaughters and six other granddaughters.
Oh, wow. Full of girls.
And just like Bryan, I was born and raised in Dallas. I'm married to a lovely woman named Robin, so she's got two bird names, Robin Parrott, and a lovely daughter, two beautiful grandkids. My professional career, I started primarily in sales and eventually got into technology. And most of my career professionally was in technology, startup companies, and also large corporations. After 9/11, I just decided it was time for me to make some changes. I was in Atlanta when the bombings took place in New York, and I had to drive back, and it just got me thinking about how much time I'd spent away from my family. And so I just said, I'm gonna change careers. So I became a teacher. And so for 11 years I taught, and I'm still in education. I am the board president of a 5-campus charter school system around the Dallas area, and also do contract work for the school.
Awesome. That's awesome. I did a little teaching. I actually was going for my exam, and so I'm still trying to make that transition. But anyway, now tell us, how do you all know each other? How do you know each other?
Well, we started being friends in 1955 in the second grade. And we have gone through high school and college years, and all the way, all these years, Brenda's lived out of the state on a couple of occasions, but we've always stayed in contact.
Yeah, Bryan and I, when we met in the second grade, it was a true friendship from the very beginning. I tell the story in the third grade. He was in my art class, and he was a pretty talented artist, and I wasn't. And of course, I was very, very jealous. But instead of taking the high road, Bryan came over and he showed me how to draw a horse. And from that moment on, we just have been best of buddies. And through this game, it's helped our friendship. And one of the most enjoyable parts of our friendship has been the writing of this book.
That is awesome. And then tell us, okay, what is your writing background? I understand this is your first book, but what is your writing background? I understand you're a teacher, and so you have those kind of things going on. But what is your background as far as writing?
As Bryan said that, he was a reporter and a writer and an editor when he was in the Army. But his writing skills also have been honed throughout the years with our invitations. So he was the creator of so many of these wonderful invitations that are in the book. My writing experience was when my teacher in the 4th grade said you need to do a book report. And so I think I wrote one. But I actually, when I was a video production, I wrote a children's video and produced it and distributed it. But this is really my first experience at truly writing something that starts and it can grow and then eventually comes to an end. And it was fantastic experience to where I've got 2 more books that I'm working on.
Awesome. And what about you, Bryan?
I have one other book that I started about 10 years ago on the same subject. It's more historical fiction rather than this book, which is historical, pure Americana about boys playing football and showing up every year on Thanksgiving morning to play a traditional football game.
I think
what was, can I ask this question about the sock? Because I saw the sock that you all would.
Well, the field that we play on had no yard markers, and so how do you keep up where the line of scrimmage was? And so we had a golf ball inside of a sock, and so that would be thrown around, and so wherever the sock was the line of scrimmage. So we would line up on the sock, and if it was an incomplete pass, then the ball would be back to the sock.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. I saw that sock, and I thought I got to remember to ask him about that sock.
we stupidly at one time when it was very windy, we didn't have anything in the sock, and the sock kept just blowing away. So we got smart enough to put a golf ball inside of it.
Yeah, keep it steady.
That's a good question, Denise.
That's so cute. I enjoyed watching that. I'm watching the video, so I watched that as well. So I really enjoyed watching all of that. And
good.
Then I got really tickled about when the quarterback was throwing the ball, and then y'all said, "Oh, it missed again."
Right.
That was all very interesting. I really enjoyed looking at all of that. So tell the audience about your memoir. Tell everybody about the Riley Thanksgiving Invitational Story, what it's all about, and how it all got started.
Well, Thanksgiving morning was special. I mean, there was a game Thanksgiving morning, Thanksgiving afternoon, all day Friday, all day Saturday, Sunday afternoon. I mean, there were kids everywhere in the 1950s, almost 2 kids in every house. So there were games going on every conceivable place to play touch football. We seized the front yard of this elementary school, ran the little kids off, and locked the game. This was only for the elite players. If you weren't going to play in this game, you could go to a different spot on the campus and start your own game. But this was a special game, and each year, especially when we went away to college, and our high school relationships became secondary to college relationships, I wanted to make sure that our friendships were maintained, and I mailed invitations to let everybody know, yes, we're still playing Thanksgiving morning, and you're invited. Please come.
Yeah, that when he started the invitations in '67, it was quite a surprise in the mail all of a sudden getting this invitation, because I said, well, I was going to be there anyway. But what eventually evolves is the anticipation now every year waiting for that mail to come, because Bryan continued to get more and more creative with his invitations. And it became a really exciting part of what we were traditionally now doing with this game.
And the game just really grew. I mean, it really grew to the point that it gained some local news,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was so fun, having local news stations come out and shoot film footage of us in the huddle, snapping the ball, running pass routes, dropping the pass, and actual playing.
Yeah, we had a couple of local stations out for the 20th anniversary. For the 40th, we had a couple of Dallas Morning News, and I can't remember if the Times Herald was still around, but I believe we had an article in there. And then for our 50th, we had one station show up for our final game.
Wow. Now I was talking about your book today to another lady, and she reads one of my coworkers, and she said, well, please ask them about that one snowy Thanksgiving that it was really icy and snowy. She said, did they play that day as well? I said,
Yeah, she remembers that. It was sleeting, and we were all huddled up underneath the overhang of the entrance to the school, and nobody wanted to play.
It might have been one of our shortest games.
And so I just decided, by golly, we're here, we're going to play. So I ran out, and everybody followed, and we lined up and started playing, and it was cold.
Then she said it was very, very cold. She said, make sure you ask that question. I said, I'm going to remember to do that because I would love to know that myself. Yeah, how you all maneuver through that snowy weather, because I'm not from Texas. I'm from the Midwest, and so it's cold up there all the time. But being here, that icy weather is like a shutdown. Everybody goes on a shutdown when it comes to that. So I said, I gotta remember to ask that. Now I love the cover of the book and the invitation and all of that. So Bryan, can you tell us about the invitation and how it came about, and just how you, because I know in '67 is when it started, but then you continue to do that for them, and you just, Brent, you just kind of touched on there, but can you go a little deeper with it?
Sure. The invitations were usually last minute, and if you've ever been a journalist and worked on a newspaper, it's amazing how creative you can be when the deadline gets closer and closer, because you have to get something done. And a lot of these invitations were last minute, and I would just create different ways to convey the message that we're playing this football game, and you're invited. And as Brent mentioned, the invitations themselves became as much, or maybe even a bigger part of this tradition than showing up and playing touch football. Although playing touch football, competing, strategizing, running and bumping and fighting and trying to win this annual touch football game was the other part of it.
Yeah, the invitations, there are so many of my favorites that Bryan truly was a creator of. And I can tell you that my favorite of his is in '83. And one of the things, Bryan, he's also a photographer. And if you've seen some of the pictures that are in there, his photography is really, really good. And so in '83, he had this concept where we're getting old. And so he decided.
We're getting old in 1983.
Yeah, 83, we're getting old. And so he decides that he's going to do this theme where a bunch of old people are still trying to play football. So he has a hospital bed out on the field, and one of our players is laying in the bed, and he's got the football, and he's trying to throw it to another player who happens to be on crutches. And there's a nurse there just waiting for one of us to have a heart attack and fall down. But it's a great picture. And then his prose, his creation of the wording to show what this picture was all about is really, really good. And I think that was your best. But he's had a few that weren't really quite as good. I'll tell you one other that's kind of funny. When Bryan was away at the Army, we had trouble getting full teams out there. In other words, you had people that were moving on, and so we invited a couple of new players to play. One of was a college buddy of mine. And the next thing you know, I think it was in '83 or '84, there's this letter, and Bryan had made himself the commissioner. And so he's up in, where were you, Maryland?
Maryland.
He's up in Maryland, and we get the invitation. I'm looking forward to it. And I thought it was all tongue-in-cheek, but it was basically the commissioners saying, I understand that there's other players on the field, and nobody can pick anybody to play except me. And I thought he was kidding. And so as we were writing this book, I said, you were doing that kiddingly, right? And he goes, no, I was serious. He was dead serious. But anyway, his very next invitation, he kind of apologized for what he had done in that invitation.
That is too funny. But we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to hear from our wonderful sponsors, and then we will be right back with Brent and Bryan talking about the Thanksgiving, the Raleigh Thanksgiving Invitational Story. So we'll be back to talk to you in just a few minutes.
Thank you.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lecter, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have 2 new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Thank you for watching or listening to this show. Indie Lecter is proud to sponsor this programming. As a thank you for listening or watching, we would like to give you a 10% coupon code that you can use on our bookstore at indielecter.store. Use coupon code video19. Again, that's indielecter.store, coupon code video19 for a 10% discount on any purchase. Thank you.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us. Follow.
Okay, so we are back. Thanks. We're back from our break, and we are back, and we have been interviewing Brent Parrott and Bryan Renfro, authors of the Raleigh Thanksgiving Invitational Story. And so now we're back with our authors, and we're going to ask them some more questions, continue to talk about this book that is a tradition. It is a tradition for them. It had been going on since 1960. And then they they did 50 years of this tradition of playing this Thanksgiving football, this football game for Thanksgiving Day. And you know how it was when you were little, it was kind of like before the dinner was ready, you all snuck out, I guess, initially when you were real young and went to go play this game. But I can imagine as things went on and as you all kept doing it, I could imagine your mother saying, make sure you got your hat on, make sure, was any of that taking place?
I think my mom was too busy getting ready for Thanksgiving. And like you said, it was more just kind of sneaking out and saying, see you later, Mom. I'll try to get home before you're putting food on the table. So I can't remember my mom ever bundling me up for one of my games.
You know, Denise, this is probably a good spot to mention the subtitle of the book is as told by those born of the greatest generation. We grew up in the most ideal time in the history of the world to ever be a kid, and we didn't earn that or deserve that. Our parents did, the greatest generation. So what a blessing as a kid to be able to walk away from preparation for Thanksgiving and go play with my buddies.
Yeah, it was a time too where I could literally walk 2 miles to play football and not have to worry about anything. But things have changed a little bit.
Things have changed quite a bit. So tell us some of your favorite invitations during those 18 years, both of you all. Could you all tell us about some of those invitations that you know were your favorite?
Well, again, Bryan, my favorite was in '83. But if you're, I can't remember if we're now talking about once the players took over. I will literally tell you that every player that did an invitation tried to outdo the next. So in '85, Jim Guy was the very first player to do an invitation, and he did a great job. And then the next year, Danny Dillon did a better job. And so it became almost a competitive thing with our invitations once Bryan had kind of turned it over to us. I like to say that mine's probably the best. But
It's not.
yeah, mine is the best.
It's not.
Well, then whose is the best? No, they're all good. I think that the finish, which Bryan did in 2009, and then also in 2010, was really, really good. For the 50th, he didn't announce that it was our last game, but we had pretty much told him it was going to be our last game. And so it's an invitation that really tugs at you. It has a lot of memorabilia in the invitation. And in 2010, we get an invitation, but it's not really an invitation in the mail. It's the announcing that we've ended our game. And there's a great picture of Bryan on his knee with his helmet. You want to put your helmet on? Okay. He's got his helmet on, and he's like this. And it's a beautiful picture.
I saw that.
Yeah.
It's a part of the back cover. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he wore that for a number of years. It was his trademark.
It was my trademark. This is like a late 1940s plastic football helmet.
Yeah, because I saw that all of you all didn't have helmets on when you were playing. And then I remember too reading that one of you, somebody broke their arm, I guess early on when you all first started out. Somebody had.
Yeah, he broke his leg, and we just dropped him off on the front porch and ran away, rang the doorbell.
Oh my God!
He just lived around the corner. We picked him up. We made like a hand bridge, carried him home, put him on the door, put him in front of the door on the porch, rang the doorbell, and ran. We ran away back to the game. And we got in trouble for that. One of the mothers found out about it and came around the corner of the school and cussed us out for being so unsympathetic.
Oh my God, that was something.
We actually started out playing tackle, and then we eventually realized playing tackle without pads was kind of stupid. So we went to touch football game.
Touch football, yeah, you kept changing the rules a little bit, and then you also had your own glossary of words. Like I saw one that I thought was real interesting. It was called entertain your man, and so that meant that you're not going to be a part of this play, so y'all just watch. You watch out for the person that you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Richard Parker has a very funny bit on that. Is that whenever he was entertaining his man, he'd immediately tell who he was entertaining, so that both of them just stood over on the sideline and just told jokes or something.
That is too interesting. And then you had like a lateral center and Freddie Lambert. What was that one about?
Tell me who Freddie Lambert is.
Well, it was just a fictitious person that we made up in high school, and we wrote in Freddie Lambert's name on all the cheerleader nominations, and anything that there was where you could write in a name, we always wrote in the name Freddie Lambert. And we made up his sister, Frida Lambert. She was a contestant in all the beauty contests.
Yeah, and in our annuals, I believe in our junior and senior year, Bryan was Freddie Lambert. So he donned some glasses, and we created his picture for the annual, and he appears in the annual. He almost got a diploma too, which unfortunately we got caught at that.
Now, before we go, we're getting ready to go to break in about a minute and a half. Could y'all please tell us about the foot scraper?
Well, it's on the field of play.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess most schools have still foot scrapers. And this particular foot scraper, literally, we would use it to defend off people guarding us. I mean, we literally would run right at it and try to run them into this obstacle. And it was a point of direction as well. You know, instead of saying go to the school, we just say go to the foot scraper. And there were a few of us that were painfully hurt by that foot scraper.
That's good. That is so good. So we're getting ready to take another break, and we'll be right back again with our authors. We'll be right back. So the Rally Thanksgiving Invitational Story. So we'll be back.
Thank you, Denise.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? I'm Charlotte Kenyon, award-winning author of the book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, How to Parent Your Parents. That was a question I had to ask myself some 16 years ago, and you'll have to ask the same question. I had a father-in-law with dementia, a mother with Alzheimer's, and a dad with Parkinson, all at the same time.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
So now we're back with our authors, Brent Parrott and Bryan Renfro, authors of the Rally Thanksgiving Invitational Story. And so we're going to be, I want to talk about just briefly, I read a comment of one of the readers, and they were talking about how they actually graduated from high school with the authors, but they said the book is just about, it's not just about a 50-year tradition of playing touch football on Thanksgiving morning, but it is much more. The story is about lifelong friendships and growing up in the 60s. And then the 60s were turbulent. They were turbulent and turbulent times, but the game just continued to go on, and they just thought they especially enjoyed learning about the faithful found, how you all put the game together and you found your way, and how you did it every Thanksgiving for 50 years and you kept with it. And so they were excited about all of that. And so they thought that was just awesome. So now what's coming up next for you both, Brent and Bryan? What's coming up next?
Well, I want to tell you a little bit about what we think is so unique about this book. And we call it a digital interactive ebook. There is obviously a hard copy or a paperback copy of it, but the digital Kindle version and the PDF that you can download from our website, there are links all the way through. There are photographs, there are videos. So it is for the reader, it can be so enjoyable. They can either go to a link if they want to, or they don't have to. If they see something, how many times have you been reading a book and they take you somewhere and you kind of went, gosh, I wish I knew more about that place. Well, wouldn't it be great if you just clicked on a link and it takes you, it gives you that information? Well, that's what we've created in this book. So for every decade, you have these opportunities to go. One of my favorites is a Brill Cream commercial back in the 50s. Bryan brought up Brill Cream in one of his commentaries. And so you can click on it and it'll take you to this 1955 Brill Cream commercial. and it's hilarious.
It is.
And when I get into talking about what I grew up on, I tell you about how I basically grew up in front of a television set. And I go through all my favorite shows. And you literally can click on these and you can see the Three Stooges, you can see Roger Rabbit, you can see Ding Dong School. So I think it's a very unique book in that way. And the videos are really, really good. When we get to the memorial video for one of our good friends, Bobby, who passed away, I think it'll bring a tear to anybody's eye. So I highly recommend, even if you buy this book, go to the website, because on the website we have all the links. And all you have to do is when you come to something that you want to check on, you just go and you click on it, and you can get to that link. What's coming up for us is we've started our marketing.
Now, what is the web address? What is your website address that we can
go to? It's the Riley. Now, Riley, we misspelled Riley, which is very funny. All through the years, we misspelled Riley. It is spelled Reilly, Riley. The Riley Thanksgiving Invitational.com.
Okay.
We also have
where else can we
Facebook.
Where else can we find you on social media?
Facebook. So on our website, you can click and you can follow us on our Facebook as well.
That is awesome. And so what else? Are you doing any book signings, or do you have any of those type of upcoming events coming along?
We've got a couple of articles that will be coming out here locally in the Advocate magazine. Our PR firm, which is Farrow's Communication, just did their media blitz into the Texas area. And Bryan and I will be going down to Houston next week for an interview on the NBC affiliate for a morning program. Yes, I've got to mention, this book is so well edited. I found the most unbelievable editor. And one of the things, if anyone is watching this, it is so critical to find that right editor. When we handed this book off to her, it was a mess. I mean, it was basically 400 pages of stuff that we had just kind of put together. So if anyone is interested and want to get in touch with me, I'd be more than happy to tell you about our editor, Jane Lemos. And she also did her website.
Oh, that's awesome. And because I know authors, they need good editors. I mean, good editors. And it's hard to find a good editor. But thank you both so much.
We're going to be in Texas too.
Okay, awesome. We're coming to an end, and so we want to make sure that we invite everybody to please go and purchase this book. This is a good book to purchase. First of all, it's talking about traditions. You can learn a lot from it, and you can learn a lot from the story. And it's such an awesome story about friendship and about fellowship and all of those things. So please make sure that you go and support them. We have been talking to Brent Parrott and Bryan Renfro, and the name of their book is The Riley Thanksgiving Invitational Story. They've told you where you can go and find the book. It's out there on their website. They're on Facebook, and you can find them there. And so we thank you so much. It was our pleasure. It was my pleasure to chat with you both about your written masterpiece, and I look forward to continuing to read it, because I was really enjoying it today, reading through the book and everything, so I can really get some things to say, but I enjoyed it. So I really hope that people will go out and support our authors and continue to drop everything you read. And thank you so much. But good night, gentlemen. It was a pleasure talking to you both about your masterpiece. Thank you so much for sharing it with us today, and I hope you have many, 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 many sales. And also, you always want to have movies. I think it would be an interesting movie. How about that?
We would like that.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.